Hi, hey, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Still good coffee. So anyway, what took you so long to come back? Anyway, I'm glad you made it, even though it took a minute. So let's go into why and how to use this crosscut sled setup. I showed you how to set it up, the pieces that I use, how to calibrate it. Now let's show you how it in action so you can see how this thing works so well with no matter what kind of cut you want to do. So what we're going to do is 2 challenges. First challenge is I'm going to make another 8 segmented piece here that I can tape up into a ring without any gaps on it. Be perfect the first time. And we're going to just use this piece of scrap 1/2-inch plywood to do this. We could do it with something else, but that's just what I'm going to use because that's what I have. It's not a real segment anyway. So first thing we have to do is we're going to set the blade to the proper angle, which is going to be 22.5 using the cube. And then we'll use the special cut block that I made for that 22.5 degree angle so that we get 0 clearance on our blade as it comes up through there. So just like I did with the 45 one, we're going to do that for the 22.5. So now we have 3 different settings we're going to be using today. 22.5 to do the segments. And the other thing I'm going to do as a challenge is I'm going to make a 4-sided box, mitered corners, and it's going to be grain matched on 3 sides, if you know what that is. It's where you take a board and you cut them off in sequence, side, front, side, back, and then when you put it together, 3 of the 4 corners will be grain matched. It's a common practice. It's a little easier to do than doing a 4 corner match, and it still works. And so this is a quick, easy way to do that. But that's easy. So we thought we'd make this just a little bit harder. So I did 2 things in order to do this. First thing is I'm going to make my box out of one of these 2 here. Probably this one. But in all reality, I'm actually going to make 2 boxes at the same time using this board. So I'm going to make 2 boxes. They're both going to be 3/4 inch wrap and 3/4 inch grain match on the boxes. And I pre-cut the bottom. So now this, when I get done, has to fit this. Who cuts the bottom out first? That's insane. That's harder when you do it this way. Well, I'm here to prove to you that I can still do it. So let's get cracking. So let's do the segment first. And to do that, I have my blade at 90 degrees. So now I'm going to turn you this way so you can kind of watch this. One quick tip here that I want to explain to you, and that is about my jig. If you take a look, I know that I'm going to do a 4-inch and a 5-inch cut on my jig, and I have it zeroed out to the right side of the blade. So I took a piece of tape and put it here, and then I set this at 4-inch, marked it, put it to 5-inch, and I marked it here. So now instead of having to strain my eyes to read the scale, I see 4 and 5 instantly. And so when I'm done, I'll peel that piece of tape off and I can move on. So just a quick tip of using this, if you got predetermined cut places on your jig, just mark them out like a storybook in here with a piece of tape. So just a quick tip. Anyway, so this is, as I say, calibrated to 90. So let's move this out of the way. I'm going to leave you right here, and I'm going to be over here out of sight, but you'll be able to hear me. So I'll move this out of the way, and let's move this to 22.5 degrees. So the first thing I need to do is, let me move this up, and let's take our angle. And we're set to 0. Now we take and put that on here. And I'm still at 0. So let's move this to 22.5 degrees. So I start turning it. Now I know you can't see this. You'll have to take my word for it. There we go. And I'm going to lock it down so it stays right there. So I'm set to 22.5. And now let's take the other board that I pre-made, and it's cut a slot in there at 22.5. And the first thing you got to do is put the blade back down below the table. And drop this in place. And now we can bring it up into that area. And I'm just going to raise it all the way up. So now, this is set to 22.5. Now the first thing we want to do is, if you take our laser line, if we want to make a cut, it's going to cut it based on here. But our cutting point is actually moved from right here to right here. And actually, in order for us to see this, we're actually probably going to want to see it across the top, which means that we're actually going to be not even with this surface, but we need something, and it has to point to right where those two pieces meet. Level here, tooth right there, and we want that laser to be right there. So, if I take and loosen right here, I'm going to loosen the knob and slide my laser over, and it's coming straight over until it's at that mark there. And then I just lock it down. Whoops, it moved on me. And I lock it down, and now my laser light is right here at this point. So now, when I put this here, I know where the cut is going to be. So let's cut a tiny bit off of this so we get a clean cut without any tear out. And then we'll be ready to make, just about ready to make these segments. So, now, let's bring this up to here and set it to where it needs, to where it's zeroed. Right there. So it's just touching this, and I'm going to lock this down. Now we're going to want 1 inch wide segments on this. Right now, it's set to this cut line is on the left side of the blade. To get 1 inch segments, we have to move this over 1 inch and 1/16 of an inch to compensate for the thickness of the blade and everything. So let's move. If I look at where it is right now, and right now it's at 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to move it up to 1 3/8 of an inch, plus add 1/16 for the blade. And right there is where I want my cut. So now let's cut 8 pieces. To cut them, I just flip it back and forth. So now I'm going to put it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let's collect all these up. And let's lay them out on a piece of tape, see what happens. Okay, now let's glue them up, tape them up. Normally, I would clean the fuzzies off, but that's kind of difficult to do when you're in crunch time. So, just bear with me while we do this, but theoretically, once I get these all taped up, this should roll right out. And 2 more. And the last one. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. Let's see what happens when we roll them all up together. And quite frankly, if you hold that tight, there aren't any gaps in there. That looks pretty good. So, we got the segmented one done. So let's make a box real quick and let's see how long this takes. I'm going to need 1 piece of scrap wood that is the same thickness as what we have there, so we can do 145-degree cut. So now let's take my blade and let's go back to 0. So first thing we have to do is lower the blade and take this plate off, my 0 plate, and replace it with the 90-degree. And we bring our blade back up to 0, to 90 degrees, I mean. And then we can raise our blade and I'm going to go ahead and set this to 4 inches. Because that's going to be where our first cut is. And let's bring this back to, I don't think we're going to need this. I'm going to set this to 0. And now we're going to take our board and let's cut both ends square on here. Let's just make sure they're both square. So now we're going to cut it. And cut it again. And we get rid of the debris. Now we want to cut a 4-inch. Before we do that, so that we can kind of track these pieces, I'm going to put a squiggly line and a straight line down through here. And that way I can kind of line them back up to what it is right now and the way it is. That'll make it easier to put them back in alignment with each other if they get mixed up. Now we're going to take and bring this in and let's make these cuts. First we want 2 4-inch cuts, then 2 5-inch, then 2 4-inch, and 2 more 5-inch, and then that should be it. So let's see what we got. I'll put the first cut over here, stack them. The second cut I'll put here and stack them. And I'll just take them out each time as we go along to keep them out of the way and to keep them in arrangement. So now we turn the board and do another 4-inch cut. And put that one there. Now we change it to 5. And let's cut. I gotta cut this off. I didn't see my stop was down, and so my board was long enough. It actually was not setting at 90 degrees. So I think I'm gonna do a third video. You saw this mistake? So let me reset up, and we'll do just this board in just a second, because honestly, I just realized that that's what I ended up with. Nice fat angle on there. They're not 90, so that will never cut out. So, rather than trying to straighten this out, this is my error. I should have had my stop flip up out of the way so that it would always set all the way against the fence all the way through. I just wasn't paying attention. Anyway, we just learned something here. So anyway, now you see one of my mistakes. You saw how I did the segment, and it took me, what, 11 minutes minus the first part, which is like 2.5 minutes. So it took me around 8 minutes to do the segmented ring. That's not bad. I can do it quicker if I'm not recording, quite honestly, and setting up and doing this stuff. But you saw how easy it was to calibrate everything. Let's do the box. I have one more piece left, so I'm going to stop this because it's already over 15 minutes. And then I'll have this one, but we're going to do another one, and it's going to be showing you how I can take it right from where I'm at now. Right now it's at 22.5. I'll take and bring that back to 90. We'll make our cuts. And then, well, I'm sorry, it is at 90. So when you come back, we'll just start making the new one, okay? Sorry. So anyway, then you'll see how to do one of those too, because otherwise this is going to be too long. I can't shut up. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. Like this video. Even if you didn't, come on, be a sport. Anyway, hopefully you come back again, because that's what the most important part is. Thanks. We'll see you in a minute.